Working on the tiny boat build, stick steer suspension seat, foot control trolling motor, 14 by 32 alumicraft boat, 15 horsepower Johnson engine. This will be the last upload before test running this thing out on the lake. If you haven't already seen this whole boat build series, there'll be a link in the description below. With all that being said, let's get it. I want this to be one piece with the transom. Eighth-inch plate of aluminum to stiffen up the transom. I think that the aluminum is too thin on these boats, on the transoms especially. It could even use a brace inside, but I think this will be enough. Splashed a little paint on it so it wasn't so noticeable. Now I'll put the engine in place and clamp it down permanently for the first time. This is exciting. I didn't even scratch the paint. Not yet. I still got to do a few adjustments. So far, so good. Preventing theft is impossible, but this can be a deterrent to a lazy thief. Just simply put a lock right here on these two things where you clamp them together so that they can't unclamp your engine. And it'd be better to have a shorter lock, in my opinion. Although this is only an 1/8-inch sheet of aluminum, it has strengthened the transom significantly. There is very little movement, quite sturdy now. The only way I've ever seen these primer valves is this way with the valve up, the Schrader valve, but on this one it's gonna fit upside down. I don't know if that's okay or not. I've never seen it that way before. I'm gonna try it because it's real easy to install that way. If it doesn't work, we'll have to flip it back around. I see no reason it shouldn't work. Making things a little easier to get at, I have to hook a hose up on this carburetor right here, put a T in this line and hook these lines up. I'm going to hook the primer now, basically an electric choke, so I wanted to show you how it worked real quick. Here's your fuel tank. There's a hose that goes to a fuel pump right here, and then the hose goes to the carburetor into the engine. This is the intake. All you have to do is install a T right here at this point between the fuel pump and the carburetor so that fuel will go up this line into the primer, and this will be the biggest nipple on that primer. My primer had 2 exit ports, so that's good for 2 carburetors, but I only have 1. So I plugged one off, and then this fuel line right here went straight here into the intake, and this goes directly into the engine. All it's doing is squirting a little bit of fuel directly into the engine to get it started. When you push your key in, that's what activates it. This positive wire right here will go to your key, and this will ground to the engine. Very simple, very effective. This little brown plug right here, that's where a little hose will go. You'll take that plug off, and that is where fuel will enter into the intake and prime the engine. So I'll remove it now and put a hose there going to the primer solenoid. With it removed, what you have is that right there, which is ready to receive a hose. Because this engine only has 1 carburetor, I'll need to stop up one of these hoses, and I'll just use the plug I just removed to do that with. New fuel lines, the T, all that stuff for the primer is hooked and ready to go. It's cool because we still have a manual choke if we need it, still hooked up. These engines are made for starter solenoids, and like the primer I put on here, they're made for that. This one just didn't have it on it. It didn't have all the accessories on it, but it is made to have it. So this starter solenoid will fit right there. There's a place for it. Now I just need to get some clips, put it on, and get it wired up. There's a close-up view of my wiring for the starter solenoid. What I've done is I made it so you can still start it with the push button right on the engine, or you'll be able to start it remotely from the key switch. Let me demonstrate. Located right here is the push button start on the engine. And now we will call this the remote wire going to the key switch right here. And I will, hold on, I can't see. There you go. Got my finger in the flywheel. The reason I wired it up this way is because all the stuff was already there. If something were to happen to this engine, it will be a lot easier to work on because I'll be able to hit the starter button right back here on the engine. I will also wire up the kill switch the same exact way so I can kill it from back here at the engine too. If you're traveling a long distance with your wires like I am on this boat, from the key switch all the way back to the engine, you have to have a starter solenoid. That's the only way it'll work. Other than using some great big huge heavy wires like jumper cables and a great big heavy switch to get it started. So that's the reason for the starter solenoid. Holy moly, I just stopped filming and took off working on this thing, wiring it up, hooking everything up. So let me show you a little update. These are all the wires going from front to back, ready to hook up to the engine. I've made some brackets to hold the cables in place on the boat. You know we're getting close when it gets to this point, putting brackets on, cleaning things up. I have it on fast idle. It seems to be running good. The water pump is strong. Glad of that. The choke, the electric choke is working great. The primer, if you will, so to speak. It has old gas in it, so I don't expect it to run perfect, but it's running pretty good. Let's slow it down, see what happens. Fast idle's working. Ooh. Seems to run pretty good. I'm gonna see if it'll idle. It's idling. Oh man, it's not gonna be long now. We're so close to getting on the lake now at this point. This is good. My brackets on this side, I don't know if you guys can see them because the lighting might be bad, but see, I just got those little aluminum straps and just try to make everything as clean as possible. Still more to do, as I said before. Just a view of the back on the other side. I may shorten up the fuel hose a little bit. She's popping just a little bit, no big deal. I'm gonna rev it up. Let's see what happens. Ooh, takes gas right away. It was loading up. Maybe that's why I was popping a little bit. Oh, she puked out. Gonna clean the prop up just a little bit with this file. I've already had to bang out a little dent with 2 hammers, put one behind it, and then tap it in the front with the other one like a hammer and dolly. I'll just go around and file these burrs off of each propeller piece here to clean them up. By the way, I did check the oil in the gearbox. It is without water, which is a good thing, and full. I'm going to run it for now. It will need to be changed in the near future. Red Loctite. Looks pretty nice. Hopefully it won't get knocked off of there. But I thought there'd be a better chance of it getting knocked off if it was on the bottom of the boat instead of the side. That's why I put it on the side. Scared me a little bit. Won't be needing this. This old seat belt is worn out and nearly torn in half. That's why I'm going to replace it with this nice gray Ford Ranger one. Well, I never would have thought it, but all it is just this outside layer. That's it. That's bad. So I'm just going to shorten it up. That's it, the thread broke. I think I got enough on there. I have never sewed before in my life. This is my wife's sewing machine. I think it'll work. There you have it all fixed up. I think it'll work fine. D-rings and straps on the gas tank and the battery back here. I can't stand stuff jumping around. There's still quite a bit more to do on this boat, but I can't stand it anymore. I've had enough. Can't believe I finally made it to this point. I will now say goodbye. Stay tuned. Next upload, we will be test running our tiny boat build. This is and has been the one and only infamous Kentucky Yankee without a doubt. Signing off.